There we
Beat you
go.
to it.
Recording in progress. Go ahead, Squire.
All right. Welcome everyone to the March 21st episode of MVP Office Hours. It is awesome to see all of you. We've been off for a little while because of TDX, but we're going to get back on track. I am Squire Kirshner. I'm joined with one of my favorite people in the world, Joey Shutters Helping. And we are going to try something new in 2025 by blowing through these slides as quickly as possible, but making sure everyone's on the same page. So, high level, we meet every first and third Friday of the month. Joy and I can be reached on LinkedIn, but we prefer that if you have questions or you're looking for feedback from the group, use the success community. It's your friend. It's your best way to get responses as quickly as possible.
Shout out to Andrea. Great job.
Our next call will be on the 4th of April. Again, first and third Fridays. We want to remind everyone that we are recording. You just saw the shenanigans of that, which means if you can't be recorded, then we're going to have to ask you to drop because we can't do anything about that. We ask that while you're on the call, you share as much as you'd like, post links, raise your hand, offer your feedback, but please don't put anything private or proprietary on the screen. Again, we're recording, and so use a sandbox, use mass data, whatever, to ensure that you're protected. And most importantly, even though we are recording and we are recording, but because we're trying to be professional, positive, while also being fun and informal, let's keep it professional and positive. So in that case, I think we'll move on. Couple of upcoming events. We've got the next quarter listed out here. Big ones coming up: True North Dreaming, Mid-Atlantic Dreaming. There's also a Tableau conference in April. I'm not sure if there's any Tableau lovers on the call. And Connections in June and Dreamforce in October. Anything that anyone on the call wants to call out that isn't in this list in the next couple months that we may have missed? Cool.
Oh, sorry. I was late to find mute. It was Midwest Dreaming on there?
It's in after June.
It's
Okay,
Yeah.
fair. I wasn't sure because October was on there, so.
Oh yeah, those Salesforce conferences, they've been listed for a while. We'll get there. If I list out everything,
Yeah.
If we list out everything, we got pages and pages. The links are in the chat. Yeah, but Midwest Dreaming is also, we're a big fan. Open for speakers too, I think. So
It is, yes. All right, and with that, as a reminder, if you've got questions, feel free to put it in the chat and we'll keep track of who's up next. But we're going to start with Andrea first because she had a really critical question that came up and I thought it was a good one to talk about. So we're going to start there. So rather than read this to you, Andrea, you want
me to just summarize it?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So we're health and life sciences org. We use Hi Taco. You're fine. We use Contact to track our clinicians, and the way it was all set up was the idea that like you work in one state. Guess what? That's not always the case. Sometimes they work in multiple states, and we have to credential them in multiple states to keep track of who's where. So now, when I set this up to do quick and easy, it was like great, multiple contacts to multiple accounts. So we're tracking it with the account contact relationship. Now I find out there's all these other dates that have to be tracked and whatnot and processes. And I was like, well, account and contact, like I can add fields there, or I could build a custom object. And I'm like, I either one probably works. I think I noted in there, I don't know if the downside is if I have to look up that relationship for the purpose of adding a date stamp when something happens like on a case, is then I just need more get elements in my flow versus if it was a lookup, then I could just, but you can't put a lookup on, you can't look up to the account contact relationship from
Linda, go. I see you.
So
Yeah.
some cautions. Account contact relationship, you can't track history on your own. If you're going to need that, you're going to have to build full custom history tracking. That sucks. Had to do it once. I feel like once you get to the point where you've added probably more than 5-ish fields to the account contact relationship, you start getting into a mess. To the point where I've in the past created a custom object to deal with that links to both. The only thing is you can't naturally link to a contact relationship from any custom object. So you kind of have to fake it with
Yeah.
capturing the ID and then building a link field. If you want to use that. Otherwise, I'd say really your clinicians probably just having a custom sub object to track the states and all the dates and stuff might be a better way to go.
Yeah, because it's going to be that they're going to need. So for right now, we use there's native healthcare practitioner facility record, and we can track the primary. But they can have multiple. They can have a primary for each state that they're in. They could have a primary license for each state, and so that's where I thought is that the custom object to track that, like, again, I don't know if it's going to need a lookup or if I'm going to need.
I think it sounds
If
like
I'm
you
gonna
need to
need-
do some whiteboarding.
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, part of it is that I need to get there. There's a whole, this is before I get into all the stuff that's going to have to be automated. There's more requirements to be gathered. But this is just from the base level. What are the things I need to do? I think the only downside to a custom object is then I have to go back and backfill to create for the existing relationships. But
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
not a
I
big
think
deal.
it's really critical to not lose track while it's already there and it does it's a nice functionality to allow for that multi-relational tooling. Like that's what it's built for. I would recommend, and we kind of learned this hard way too. It's similar to what Linda was saying is like custom fields on that object are easy, but they should really be supplementary to the relationship, not to other data. Because you're just going to corner yourself because like similar to task, that connection does other things too. And you might end up stepping on a toe that you don't even realize you have. Right. So I'd be really careful with going farther than, like, for instance, in our case, we represent like kind of start and end dates of the relationship, or like if they're the primary or tertiary contact in the relationship, but like it's still about the relationship, nothing else. Everything else pushes to the side.
Okay. So sounds like the general consensus is build a custom object, whatever legwork has to be done to get that up and running, so be it. It's worth the juice is worth the squeeze on that one.
I mean, it sounds like you've created a custom object of data to begin with, so might as well just start there. Because because if I understood what you're in the question, what you're tracking is not actually the account relationship anymore. It's something else entirely.
Yeah, I mean, I think things we will want to track, and we haven't, it's not currently tracking, but potentially is the start and end date. Like one of the things that we're going to have to track is the state start date. Like when did they start practicing in that state? So that's specific to that relationship.
Sure.
But a lot of it's like, when did they go through committee on this date? But for that, it's a state profile is really what it is, like for that clinician.
Sure. And the state itself is currently an account for you?
Yes, one of the account types is for our groups, which generally are states, but sometimes they're smaller than that. But yeah.
Yeah.
So
I mean, reporting can be a bit of a challenge with this thing too. So if you want to do any sort of analytics over time, it's there, but it feels like you've built some sort of clinician record already in your head. You just don't want to build it because of the you were saying, like the data loading and the back loading, like the stuff to kind of
Oh, Squire,
Yeah.
stop
I mean,
calling out the uncomfortable.
if I can,
yeah, I've
but
been there.
if I can
Been
get
there,
out
I know what
of,
that
if I
is.
can get out of building it, if the account contact relationship would do the job and then I don't have to build it, cool. But if
So,
the answer is no, it really makes more sense to build it, then so be it.
Andrea, my first reaction to this was, are all of these extra fields that you want to put on this special little account contact relationship object, do they apply to every account contact relationship? And I think the answer is no.
Smart.
Probably not because, well, right now we're only using it for clinicians, but a lot of it right now it's tracked like the initial relationship. If there's only one relationship, that core data is tracked on the contact. So their employment start date
Sure.
is never
sure.
going to change.
But that's
yeah.
that's why I was like, if it applies to every account contact relationship that is in your system, then by all means, like max this thing out. But if it does not, then I really think that Linda and Squire's advice is the way to go.
Yeah, because I think it also then I have to then there's more questions to understand from the group. It's like, well, do we need a profile if they're only in one state? Probably. And then it seems, and then there's potentially duplicative data. Is my only because it's on the contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got your work cut out for you with some whiteboarding time, I think. I mean, otherwise, Linda can talk to you about technical debt till she's blue in the face. So. Linda, we need to talk. All right, are you wrapped up then, Andrea, or do you need more?
I think I'm good. The questions I have are for they'll be for the business, and if I have other stuff, there's various channels that I can reach out if I have other questions.
Start whiteboarding that because I think you've got a really solid like POC in your head. Sarah.
Hi, everybody. Hi.
What do you got?
It's 1:15.
Sorry, it's 1:15 at my house.
Oh, so it is. It's at my house too. Well, actually, no, it's 2:15 at my house. Sorry.
I have an audio clock that reminds me, and sometimes it hits the microphone. Sorry, friends.
Yeah, so like not at all related to what Andrea is talking about, but coincidentally also about relationships between contacts and accounts. However, this case, we're talking NPSP affiliations. If you are familiar with those,
Michael.
love affiliations. Junction object. between
Because
the contact.
unlike account contact relationships, affiliations work.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, it's it's the object that you want, Andrea. Really,
It really is.
So
junction
what they're
object.
saying is install NPSP into your org.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
there you go.
No,
Can you
I'm
still
kidding. I'm kidding.
install it from GitHub though? We used to have it.
Yeah, you
Can.
definitely can. Yes,
You
Yeah,
can.
we
absolutely
had
can.
relationships and affiliations, and they were amazing.
Yeah,
They're
they're great.
so good.
They're so good. I love them. We use them in this particular case to track our board members because we have an account in our org that represents our business, and then we have contacts who are our board members, and we affiliated them with this affiliation object. Great, wonderful, all works perfectly. For various reasons, and we could maybe talk about the reasons themselves, but I wanted to track. I want to do a roll-up summary on the contact about their affiliations with our org. So that do they have a current affiliation to our org? Are they a current board member? Right. And so you can make a roll-up summary to do that, and you can filter it. But if you want to filter on account ID, you have to hard code it. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Right. Nobody wants to
Dolores
do that.
to the rescue.
Okay. But okay. So I should just go ahead and make it a roll-up summary, a declarative roll-up summary, or use a record triggered flow and forget the out-of-the-box roll-up summary. Is that really just the answer? Okay. I've been moving away from DLRS just because we have so many of them that they have been slowing our system down. So I've been trying to avoid them when I can, but maybe this is an instance where I shouldn't. I know that you're a big proponent, Michael.
And if
They're awesome. I do love them.
If they're slowing your system down, it's because you're not carefully considering what should be real time and what should be
Yes.
delayed and what should be
This is true.
overnight.
Yes, that is also true.
Did I just hear technical debt?
Yeah, you did. You absolutely did. 100%. But
Sarah, how long have you been at your org?
we're coming up on 10 years now. So
Oh man, the remodel is going to be rough.
it is. It's going to be rough.
Joy, it's just all technical debt.
Yeah. And I create more every day. every
Today's
day.
new shiny is tomorrow's technical debt.
You know it is.
So for hello, is this on?
Hi.
It
Am I
is
hot?
on.
Do
Okay. So for us that do not have the mind that y'all do, can you explain to me why Dolores does that? Is it because that is a process that happens outside of the object, and then at the end the object is filled with an actual field that has actual values in it, other than other roll-ups which are just kind of pointers
Yeah.
to data. I mean, why can't you do it with a roll up?
Well, here, I can show you. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing with it. Go ahead, Michael. It's
No,
an
go
Apex
ahead, Sarah.
trigger.
You answered the question about why you had to hard code. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, in Salesforce, here, I'll share this sandbox with you. Right. If you're setting up your roll-up summary and I want to count how many CDSS board affiliations we have, and you want to set the organization ID, which is a field on the affiliation, right? That's what I want to filter my roll-up by. The only choice I have here is to put an ID in. I can't look up by name. Oops. What happened to my filter? It just disappeared. And like, that's not fun. Nobody likes that. This is a sandbox. That org ID is not going to be the same when I go to production. Like, yuck. Like, everybody hates that, right? I hate that.
Yeah.
I was thinking, in this case, it's one single thing. I can probably track it. But if you use something like Dolores, aka DLRS, or record triggered flow, which ultimately is the same thing under the hood, you're just filling a blank field. Either in this
need
case, you
two
would fill it with a
flows.
count. You need two flows.
Don't forget you would need minimum of 2 flows because you can't have a flow.
Oh yeah,
that runs
because
in
you
a
can't fit the
delete
delete.
context.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Dolores is like a really fancy UI for writing Apex triggers behind the scenes, is what it does.
Well, effectively, that's what Flow does too, but.
Right, exactly. Like, that's sort of why I was saying they're kind of the same thing, but a little bit different, because Dolores can write the delete trigger in for you, and Flow, you have to create a second flow to do that.
Yeah.
So-
Unless you schedule it and then it just checks the current state, not trigger
That's
on,
true.
right? So.
That's
So
true.
I would argue, I don't know how to even test this, and I would love to throw this open to this group. People often say, "Oh, Dolores, I don't use it because it has performance implications." There's unless someone can prove it to me, there is no reason to believe Dolores's performance implications are any different than having another roll-up summary field standard or 2 flows, which also have to run.
Yeah.
So, having your Dolores, even in real time, it's going to compete, I would think, with these 2 other options that are equally triggered in real time and therefore have to take some processor time. But here in the organization ID in Dolores, you could use the name, which then if you spin up a sandbox and you put in Country Song and Dance Society, it will work instantly, which is what I put in the chat. It's in my last paragraph in that.
Yeah. So I think maybe more the question becomes, for me at least, is like, I got to go clean up our Dolores summary rollups, because like they ballooned and then got unwieldy.
I have seen orgs that they have too many Dolores, hundreds of Doloreses, because they thought that was the way to do it. And probably it is, but it is a throttle hog. And then the question becomes, well, do you really need those calculations in real time?
Right.
All of them? Can you schedule these? Can you figure out a different way of showing that?
Async.
Like, could you just do a report that shows like there's a number of different ways to get data out of Salesforce.
Yep.
You don't have to do it all the same way.
Totally agree. Totally agree. It's when people say this is Dolores's fault, as opposed to if you did the same thing in Rollup Helper, Apex summaries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, it would have the exact same problem.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. It's more, I was hoping to avoid automation per se and be able to use this, out of the box roll-up summary, which I think functions differently. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know what this is doing. The native roll-up fields. I have no idea.
Yeah, rollups are a real-time trigger effectively underneath the covers. They're not like a formula field that does the runtime.
Yeah. So, all right. Well,
see a
thanks.
roll-up in the metadata if you wanted to confirm that. I think you can see what it's actually accomplishing.
Okay. Yeah, that is the other thing about Dolores that I kind of annoyed at. Like, can you, and maybe Michael, you know the answer to this, can I look at the trigger? Can I get to that code? I can get to the trigger. Can I get to the...
Can you read it?
You can read the trigger, and all of Dolores is on GitHub.
Okay.
The trigger that you install on the child object, if you're doing a real time,
Yeah,
is your trigger installed by Dolores, but it's your code.
yeah. Because I think that one is just the framework trigger, right? That says like, if an update run this code, and then it's like, what's this code and can I get to that?
That's on
That's-
GitHub.
That's in GitHub? Okay, cool.
I,
Yes, any of you on this call who are coders, we on the Dolores team are always looking for more people to help us work on our code. We've made huge strides in terms of performance and other things, but we have some roadmap stuff that if we had
Great.
more bodies, we could push out faster.
Well, maybe that's a good plug for me then too.
And fun if you, we use Copilot at work. If you are not a coder but want to quickly like read through code, you can paste it into a tool like Copilot or ChatGPT and ask it to explain it to you in layman's terms. I had to do that the other day because I had like 10 different pieces of code I needed to look at, and at the pace I move, it will take a long time. Super helpful.
Cool.
I just want to make sure too, Dolores, everyone on the call knows what that is. I can see, I know most of the faces do, but I just want to make sure we didn't blow past anyone who's not familiar with that. Speak now, forever hold your peace. Cool.
Yeah, Michael put a link into his, well, a thing,
Yeah.
a link in the thing.
Cool.
Yeah,
All right.
just
Well,
a really quick side note on that, Michael, we had a weird one where we've actually sunset DLRS for a variety of reasons that we don't need to debate. And there's like hangers on that we're finding in source control and in the org that it doesn't know anything about why those triggers still exist. And that was a challenge. So if you wanted to add a roadmap item, there's a nice like deprecation trigger that be like, if you try to uninstall, don't forget that these are what's going to be left behind. That'd be great.
How about you file an issue on the GitHub repo, which you can find linked to the documentation I just put in the chat.
You got it. As far as you know, I'll do that.
little did
Right-
we know
right
that
at-
this
right.
was going to be a PSA announcement or a plug for DLRS.
Fantastic.
Cool. I don't know if there's any other questions. I have sort of a related question that's different, but
I don't think we have another question queued up right now. So that means run with it.
great. So speaking of hard-coded IDs, I know how I would solve this one, but I wanted to know if there's a different way or a better way. In a record triggered flow, if you want to only trigger that flow based off of record ID type, or like a record type ID, sorry. So like I only want to run it for membership record types. I think the way that I would do it is have it trigger on everything and then put a decision as my first element. I hate doing that. Is there a better way to do it? Michelle's shaking her head. Maybe there's a better way to do this.
Formulas.
Tell me. Formulas?
Instead of using your entry criteria with the conditions, write a formula, because formula
Okay.
allows you to go record type ID dot name equals.
Okay.
And so then you don't have to make it wake up and run just long enough to be like, oh, never mind. You can
Yeah.
actually control it. You get out of using your pretty little condition UI and have to actually write the formula for it.
Okay.
I would also say
can do
use
that.
dev name and not name, because if you,
Yeah.
like me, have a business that loves to rebrand, it will come back to bite you.
Right.
Okay.
But
Cool.
yeah, it allows you to dot into through the relationship. So you can traverse over to record type ID and from the record type get
Great.
dev name field and put an actual name in there.
Cool. Because I didn't really want to have a get and then do a decision and blah, blah, blah. Awesome.
Follow-up question on that, because I like that solution. We built effectively a lookup table in metadata to be able to, because we want to be able to assess more than just one. What would you say is the decision point between doing the formula and saying if A or B or C or D versus having a metadata table that's like, if it's in this table, do this thing?
Maybe quantity of record types.
Okay.
I mean, if you only have one or two, the juice doesn't seem worth the squeeze, but if you have a lot, I
Yeah.
could see the justification.
Yeah,
Right,
we
and-
built it assuming we'd want to have rules like this in perpetuity. So like we only needed one or two, but we're like, when we need 50 or 60, we can extend the table. So
And if you
When you
wanted to
need 50 or
run-
60, I feel like you need to have a conversation about why you need 50 or 60. Just saying.
also true.
Also, if you want the flow to trigger on like multiple record names and you want to do like an in, like you were saying is good. Like in this case, I only wanted to trigger on this particular record type.
You know,
So why, you know, but
well, but it's still entering, right? It's still
That's true.
evaluating. So you're
Yeah.
not skipping it. I mean, you still have the trigger event, but it just
Right.
then fails immediately, right? So
yeah. Which I think somebody at some point did a performance comparison of that and it's like pretty negligible, but
yeah,
it's not nothing.
no, also true. In your example, Michelle, you've entered the flow as well, but then at the first decision point, you're just like, if this is true, continue, or you're putting it
It's-
at the entry point.
Yep. Just on the entry criteria, the start conditions, like instead of using entry criteria of like this and this and this, I'm like, nope. Switch it to formula evaluates the true and just start typing.
All set.
Hex color display. Come on.
I'm not kidding around with you. Like,
Fight it out with Michael. Who gets to go first?
oh, we can
Yeah,
talk theoretical
had a
all day long, but if
fun
someone's
hex
got an
color.
answer about like how I can display a bar of the color code, that'd be great.
Wait, what do you want to
Wait,
do?
what? Ask yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're
Yeah,
all
yours is more
curious.
fun, Joy.
I want like the field is the hex color, right? And I
It's
want to just
130.
it's 130. Thanks. And I want to display like what the color is so that if someone
Where?
miskey like on the record, but it doesn't make a lot of sense for it to be there. I don't care where it's displayed, somewhere, in a way that like if they miskey, because I don't want to put a color picker in. I just want to display what color they put in so that if they're expecting it to be red and it's blue, they can see that they're off. Sort of thing. So
Oh.
So
you
you
know what I mean?
almost want like
This is-
reactivity and like a screen flow or like I put this in.
I
and
would
this is what
love
it
the
looks like.
background of this field to actually be the color.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can do it in Salesforce.
This sounds like
without
it sounds like a good
LWC.
Good reason to use
LWC.
Mhm.
Yeah, or
Well,
flow. You could do it with flow. It'd be ugly, but you could do it.
build an agent force agent to say, tell me what this color is. I'm going to show. What movie do you want to see? I'm going to show you a color. You tell me what color it is. It's like movie phone. What movie would you like to see?
all of them.
Like
all of
speaking
them.
of Copilot, I had my like first in the wild use of it the other day when I had a series of hex colors and I was like, make me a grid that has all these colors in it. I don't feel like going and finding them and copying and pasting. And it did it. And I was like, oh, cool. Can you put the names of the colors in the boxes? Like, sure, I can. And I was like, hey, can you put a buffer around each one? Yeah, sure, I can do that. It was awesome.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Yet I had to ask it to create a flip art image of a 3-legged stool and it kept giving me a 4-legged stool. And I'm like, what part of 3 legs do you not understand?
It
least it
wasn't
didn't have
seeing
a
the
num-
fourth one.
Numbers. They don't understand numbers.
Clearly, yeah.
Cannot
I-
count. So LWC it is.
Well, Joy, not necessarily LWC. Like, while it
dear.
would be the prettiest thing, what you could do potentially is, well, does it have to be a box of the color or just does it have to be
No.
that color?
No, that was just a brain
Right.
thought.
So you could potentially do a rich text display field in a screen flow and like pass to it the HTML code that it needs with the hex code written into, like, rich text fields have to have a white background. I don't think you can change that anywhere in Salesforce, but you
Okay.
could at least display a rich text field that would have the color that they selected as the text color. I'm not sure you could pull it off in a formula field, but
Does the rich text doesn't support highlighting, right?
I don't remember. Hold on a second.
I don't think it does. I think that's like a Word doc Google situation. Like Google.
I really don't think it does, but I also
I don't think it does either.
don't remember it at the moment.
That might be a way to go. But we'll have to see. I might be flexing my developers on this one because I'm just like, yeah, I can't do that one declaratively the way I want to.
It's a flex just to say you have developers available.
Show off.
Do they want to do pro bono work on Dolores?
None of my developers are interested in pro bono work. I'm sorry.
What if they
Oh.
thought of it as volunteering for the Ohana?
Mm. I'm not going to speak for these humans, but
I kind of
the
feel like
company
if it doesn't help billable hours, it might not be good useful.
the company that employs them would say no.
No highlight, Joy.
That's all right. No highlight. So we'll flex the lightning web component and see where that goes. But the screen flow I really like. And one of the things that like I went down a rabbit hole with this, I found a comment from Dale.
Dale who?
Dale, our friend Dale. Don't be
know,
like
I know.
that. Come
Duh,
come on.
Oh, no him.
And
Young Krantz?
no, the other Dale.
Oh, that Dale. Sorry.
The other Dale. And he had suggested going down a path with hold on, I need to put this in here. With this website, I can't say it, Insight Colorpedia. And I was like, oh, that would be amazing, right? Because if I could just display this image based on the hex code, see what this, you guys see what I'm saying here. So the
Yeah.
first one is just their general website. The second one is a specific hex code.svg, and then it like pops the little block, and I'm like, oh, I could render that. That'd be great.
Wait,
I
you
was
could
wondering-
absolutely do that as a formula field with a link.
With a link to the thing, I want to display the thing.
I was just wondering if.
Yeah, but as a
I
URL
don't-
field, it'll display the URL, right?
Yeah, so
Right.
to click into it, you'd have to do a lightning web component to pull it into the page.
Yeah,
So
or
this
can
is a
you-
good stepping stone, maybe.
I was wondering if you could do some sort of like HTTP call out type thing, either in Flow or I don't know enough about Lightning Web Components to be like, can you just pull the code from that website into your component?
Ooh.
Or pull the image in?
What
I don't
about,
know.
could you do like a redirect to the URL as a button, like check the color and it would do like a pop-up window that just says go to URL? Almost
That's
like
actually a really different way to approach this. Like check the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like
So
it.
it's not always displayed. It's not, and that's nice because it's not always loading an image on your record
Yep.
page.
Lots of things. So I thought this was a fun little rabbit hole that everyone would enjoy, because I was like, I went down this, I'm like, well, this is more fun than the regex formula I was working on. So anyway,
X colors all day long.
give me all the colors of the rainbow. Oh, that's the other weather we had. We had rainbows
nice.
this week. Like we've had lots of crazy weather. All right. What do you got, Michael? What do you got? What's your theoretical question? And if it has to do with Dolores,
Doesn't-
like I feel like we got
no,
past that.
no,
Oh,
no,
Sarah,
no
I love it.
Dolores.
Okay.
No Dolores. Client is doing attendance, like for classes.
Here.
They need to know if a student has missed 6 in a row.
Six consecutive
So
days in a row, or six
six-
consecutive classes
6
in a row.
consecutive classes of the same class. So I don't need to go out and like check if they're enrolled in 2 classes, which would break up everything. So I've built it. I've built it in Flow. I'll show you what I've built, but I'm curious if there's if I'm like missing a better way. And the way I have, I'm going to share my screen. It's in a sandbox. Don't worry. The way I have can tell you if they're in a streak of 6 or 3. This Flow got more complicated when they said they wanted to like people in danger of attrition, but it can't tell you which one they're on. So ignoring the extra, right? All I do is if there's a service delivery with an absence in it, then I get the last 6 service deliveries. And then I filter down to those that are absences. And if they're 6 or more, which there won't be more because there's only 6 records, then this is a 6 absence streak. And if there was 1 present in the middle, it's not a 6 absence streak. And so it sort of resets. But if 1, is this the best way? I think it's pretty good. But 2, if I did want to know you're on the 5th in a row, this wouldn't work. And the reason it's slightly more complicated is now I have this version where it checks if they're at 3, And if they're at 3, it goes on to check if they're at 6.
Could you just have a counter on the record that every time they have an absence, it picks up one?
And then when they're present, it starts over.
Or just
Wouldn't
counts
that-
the last 6 days, right?
But I would need something like this to count the last 6 days. I guess that's where I'm missing.
Well, can't you just say if there's an absence between today and today minus 6, sum them up?
Well, the classes aren't, today minus 6 won't work because the
Oh, okay.
classes don't run every day of the
Day.
week.
What if
Got
But
it.
can't you do the occurrence? Like, can't you have an occurrence number of each class as opposed to a date? Because then you would have sequences. So like if a session's 12 sessions, you could be like, session 1 is 1, 2, 3, 4. It doesn't matter how many days apart they are.
Yes, but that would require work over on the session to make the
Mhm.
occurrence numbers, which seems more complicated. But yes, that's interesting. Hadn't
Can you,
considered doing that.
sorry, I know you said this, but I spaced out for a second while I was listening. How does it know then the sequence? Like,
It-
how does it know the last 6?
because it gets, it gets
Yeah.
service schedules whose delivery date is less than or equal to the one in question.
Oh, so there is a record that shows the date of it, and whether it took a month to get through those 6 or 6 days to get through 6, they can figure that out. I see what you're.
I really like Sarah's suggestion, and I think we should think about the logic behind it. So, session 1, I attend. We have a variable. It just sits there on the object. I attend. Your variable sets to 0.
Yep.
The next time I miss that class, and so now you say +1, whatever the variable used to be, add a +1. Now, if I don't attend to the next one, it will +1 to that one. If I do attend it, it sets it to 0. So you will always, what you won't have in that way is you'll never go back. Someone can't ask you at what point in time did they
Mhm.
miss 3 classes in a row. I can't tell you that. I can tell you as of right now,
Yeah.
whether they have missed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 classes,
Interesting.
or if they're at 0. I can tell you all of those things. I think the answer is very simple. You just set a variable and then you measure that across time.
Okay, I'm afraid to ask this. That's interesting. I'm kind of sold, and maybe I'll rebuild this flow. But let me ask this: if someone realizes, "Oops, last Tuesday we marked you absent, but you were present,"
Mm,
none of the recalculation is very convenient. It's
Yeah,
actually awful.
right.
yeah.
And you are tracking both attendance and lack of attendance on every one of these events?
Yes.
Okay.
It's PMM, right? It's this attendance tracker.
Okay.
Which is very handy, but also locked down to some
Oh, Celeste, come on.
extent. Yeah, well,
Sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think along Stewart's idea, instead of keeping it as a variable somewhere, couldn't you save the value, the streak, on the record each time it's edited, so that you would be able to see if someone had missed 1 or 2 or 3, because the number would just keep getting higher and higher and higher, and you would just need to grab the last record at this time to compare what the number was and either add a number or set it to 0.
yeah, but then my question is, if I went back and edited 2 sessions ago because we miscategorized you, then they're all off.
I think I thought of that too, and it does get a little messy. I don't know if this is worth it, but you could put in a scheduled flow that would look at records that had been evaluated since yesterday or whatever, and if they'd been updated, kind of rerun. So it would get out of sequence temporarily, I suppose.
Right.
I mean, probably there's a real-time way to do it, but I'm assuming you only need this before the next session, or so.
Or
What do you do with this number? Like, say it comes back as 6. What happens then?
Right. Still true. Well, the answer is the teacher has to enter the exit code. So I haven't figured out how exactly that's going to work, because if they're entering it using this doohickey, I don't have a way to tell them while they're doing this doohickey that this is about to be Celeste's 6th. So I haven't defined with the client yet how the teacher is going to be told you need an exit code for this person. But what I, am doing in the short term is posting to Chatter,
Mhm.
and on the session, is it showing on this one? On the session, I've got a banner.
Mhm.
So I'm,
What about, the reason I'm asking is because if it's just a counter to trigger something, would like a dashboard component on the page that just tells you of the total number of sessions, how many they're at any given time, and that's the indicator, or do you need to have workflow coming out of that counter?
I don't know, but the dashboard component couldn't tell me if out of the last 7 they missed 5, then were present, then we're back, which does not count as 6 in a row.
It's not, it doesn't, yeah, okay, I hear you. I was thinking that the indicator of like, of the 12, they missed 6 and were attended for 6, that doesn't matter, because if it was 3 and then 6 in and 3 out, they're off the hook. Okay, got it.
Correct.
It resets every time they show up.
It resets every time they show up. Now
It's 1:45.
and apparently it's 1:15. Yeah, I mean, this is, first of all, appreciate everyone's thoughts on this.
The voice of God is telling us.
The voice is wrong. It's 2:45.
Yeah, I know. It's God is
Listen.
mistaken.
Joy's clock is in Central Time.
I don't know how you don't throw that thing. It would drive me nuts after a while.
So it's actually so low key that I hardly notice it. It's just because I usually also have music playing, but the today this has interrupted so many meetings, and I'm sorry.
Have like an airplane mode, but it's meeting mode where it doesn't
Yeah,
chime.
exactly. Do not disturb.
I need to
Yeah.
know. I need to know what time it is. You all, my life is different.
I mean, it's
Every
a
15
nice
minutes.
time check. If you're on a meeting, it's a nice time check. Like, hey,
You
It's
see,
not
we've
the, like,
totally
dun,
lost track of where we
dun,
were.
dun.
Michael, I
dun.
want to see where this goes. This is actually super interesting to me. Because like I feel like if someone doesn't show up for 6 times, you just say goodbye.
Well, so
Right?
the reason the client asked for this is if they miss 6 of these classes, the state, who I think is paying for the classes, the
Mm.
state has to be notified, but they have open enrollment. The person can re-enroll. So they're,
Okay.
yeah, that's the 6. The 3 was, hey, let's check if someone misses 3 in a row. We might as well check in with them and see if they're in danger of attrition.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at the point, like I've built this thing, and if I want to rebuild it, I could, but it works. Now I'm at the point of determining, like, how do they deal with this information? And particularly those teachers who are almost certainly going to be logging in via an Experience Cloud site. I'm going to have to notify them that, like, so-and-so just made their 6th absence. You need to do their exit code. I have to
Mhm.
figure
Is
out
that just an activity on the record and the client, or a notification, or what does that look like?
Yes, something like that. I haven't decided exactly what. Could be a chatter post, could be an activity. Either way, they need to link back to the appropriate service delivery, which, was generated by this, but is in fact this one, because that's where the exit code gets entered.
Got it.
And the flow that you're doing is touching these service deliveries or not? Because couldn't you
Yes.
just put the exit code in for them, or you don't know what the exit code is?
I don't know what the exit code is. There's like 14 options. Actually, I'm wrong. It's not on the program. It's on the program engagement is where the exit code goes. And the options are, where the hell is it? Maybe it's not. I don't remember where it is now.
Yeah,
I
fair.
have to find it. But anyway, it's yeah, there's a lot of options. It's like decided to change their life, got a new job, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of options.
Sure. But yeah, you need to somehow like notify the teacher, like send a notification or email or whatever. If they were in Slack, you could probably build a Slack workspace or workflow to make them, like, it'll say enter a code and they enter it in Slack and it goes back to Salesforce. And
They're not in Slack.
no, bummer.
I'm not even certain how the teachers are gonna feel about having to log in somewhere when they've been used to doing this on a Google Sheet where they just put X's for attendance.
Yeah.
Although the Google Sheets has an instruction that says, when there are 6 in a row, you need to enter an exit code. I'm sure it doesn't tell them this is the 6th. So, you know,
Yeah, so maybe they're used to checking it.
yeah.
My follow-up question, I think it's in your flow. So on an unexcused absence ad, the flow effectively says, okay, give me the last 6 service events. If there's 6 absences in those 6, something bad happens. If it's any number or any number sequential, do other things.
Currently, if it's 6, do something. If it's 3, do the other something, which is check the danger of attrition box, and
Right.
otherwise do nothing.
Can you remind me can you just say, give me the last 6 and then just compare 2 filters of those lists and say, well, if it's 6 and 6, fail. If it's not 6 and 6, now check the last 3, compare filter true versus filter false on the excuse flag. Is that handle easier?
I don't know.
Right, because you're not doing multiple gets then. You're basically just saying like, give me my 6. Now evaluate. Is it 6 unexcused in a max of 6? Do something. Is it if not, then say, well, but you still have to get 3 and 3. But like,
Right. That's
Yeah,
the
I
thing
don't
is
think
that
it changes that.
I was still making it a streak, so I couldn't figure out how to do the 6 or the 3 with only one get.
yeah, okay, I'm with you again. I keep thinking like, well, then you just say if it's less than 6, you're good, but it's not. You want to know how many of and it's multiple gets. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Okay, one last question then. What about something along the line of getting 6, then looping through and pushing counts to 2 different variable attributes and then just having exits there?
Yes, I considered looping through and decided the filter seemed slightly easier than the looping, but
The only reason I'm wondering if looping is faster is because you just get 6, loop and just say true or false, and send to 2 variables. And then you just have a single decision point, which is, then you don't have multiple gets and you don't have to do multiple filters or anything. You just parse it into 2 different variables.
yeah,
Because you could effectively say, if I remember right, get the first one, if it's unexcused, the 6 is true and the 3 is true, and then second one and the third one. And eventually you're going to get true, false, and then you'd have 2 accessible variables that you can just say, well, if I'm on the 6 and I'm on the 3, then do something, right?
yep, interesting.
Hmm.
Mary, I don't know what happens if a class is canceled. I think they don't end up with a service delivery at all.
So there's no attendance record?
There's no attendance record.
Okay.
I
It
think
never happened.
it's like it never.
I hope so. Because otherwise that also throws a big wrench into how you built this.
It would be weird to mark everyone absent for a class that didn't happen. It would be slightly less weird to mark them all present for a class that didn't happen.
I agree on both of those counts, but we see weird stuff all the time or we wouldn't
Agreed.
have jobs.
Agreed.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. And I don't want to take credit for Andrea's shout out on the flow naming conventions. I don't usually do this, and I this time went back and did it after the fact.
That's okay. It's solid. It's solid. And we notice and dang.
I often wait till the end because if I'm putting stuff in the middle or whatever, and the end, I mean delivery point, and then you have to redo it next time. But
Right.
Yeah, I like it. Someone on my team does it, except when you have to refactor a flow, it becomes a major pain in the ass because then you have to rename everything.
that's where you start getting a assignment 1.5.
Well, I'm
1.7.
just happy about like the label. I'm not even worried about the numbering and like it just the labeling is like this is what this is doing. This is fantastic.
Oh, that I try to do all the time, and actually very few. None of these. Only a couple of these have the description, but
Descriptions on all the things,
Wow.
all the
That's
element descriptions.
Have you
Mm.
not seen that before, Joy?
I mean, I've seen it, but not everyone does it.
Yeah.
No, I've started pushing back on my. I had something a flow that I was reviewing for someone else, and I was like, "Hey, the flow itself didn't have a description." I was like, "And there's no description on the elements."
I
Fix
mean,
it.
blank description fields are just, unidentified technical debt.
Yep. Especially on actual fields.
Yes, yes.
We have a
especially.
ton of fields that like do the exact same thing, and it's like, why did we create the second field?
And and
Uh-oh.
also when you start using Agentforce, the AI will appreciate very highly that you have named your fields correctly, put descriptions on your flow. It's
Yes.
way helpful for any sort of analysis of how your system is doing health-wise.
But
Yeah,
if
for
Agent
sure.
Force builds your flow, it probably won't do all of those nice things for you, will it?
I don't know.
It'll
Probably.
create you a flow with a lot of technical debt, I'm guessing.
Mike,
Hard-coded IDs, no description.
Mike, do you have a question, or are you just being really polite?
I have another quick thing that I was just working on while we were talking.
You have
that I
6
thought I'd throw out.
minutes.
Okay. All right. So this hopefully is simple, but I don't know. So, all right. So the requirement is to display a data table of all of the related activities for everyone in the household. Michael's laughing because we talked earlier about this, but I have an update. So, so basically, it's easy to the activities could be related directly to any of the people in the household or the household itself. Right? I want to show them all. And this is nonprofit cloud, so they're all person accounts. It's not accounts and contacts like NPSP. So the standard Salesforce data table, which I was using, doesn't have the ability apparently to show the label of what the records are related to, because all you have is the ID, and you can't, because it's a polymorphic relationship, you can't traverse the ID to get to the thing. Earlier in a different session like this, someone suggested the unofficial SF data table, which I'd forgotten about. I used to use, but then when the Salesforce one got better, I stopped using it. Turns out the unofficial SF one does render the links exactly the way that I want them. But what I'm doing in the flow is I'm combining all of the tasks and all of the events, so from 2 different objects into sort of one record collection, and then listing them. And that works great with the standard data table, but the unofficial SF data table doesn't seem to be able to read it. It says that it doesn't have access, and I don't know why, because it can read either the tasks or the event separately, but when I combine them in the flow, it says can't read it, and I don't know why. I can show you, but
I have a
I just
suspicion.
want. Okay.
It's the same reason that I can display to be created records in the standard data table and not in the unofficial data table. Eric's data table requires an ID. So if you have specified the object and it needs an ID and you're mixing objects, then it doesn't have an ID that's expecting in the field. So option 1, continue using the data table, the unofficial data table, and build a dummy ID of the variety of object you're specifying in the table.
Mhm.
Option 2, I haven't tried this, but like you can transform collections. Like you can use the transform element to squish collections together. I don't know if you could do that in such a way.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm doing to populate the standard
Cool.
data table, but I'm not right. I wasn't looking at the ID, so maybe that's it. Maybe I need to just in the combined. You're saying in the combined data collection of the 2 objects together, the unofficial SF requires there to be an ID, and I wasn't mapping those. So maybe that's exactly the problem. Maybe I just need to link the ID, even though I'm not going to display it. I just need to have it be part of the collection.
Well,
Yes, it may also need to be an ID of the proper type though.
Yeah.
You may have to build a dummy ID for it because it will not accept the different prefix.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say, do tasks and events share the same prefix on their
I was
ID
trying to
numbers?
figure that out.
I don't know. We're about to find out.
It's
And if not, you could potentially use an Apex defined variable for your unofficial SF. It's a pain in the butt, but
All right. Well, I'm gonna run it right now and see if it works. But I just combined see if the ID works. And drum roll, please. That's it. Works perfectly. Thank you. Again, I was able to join the 2 IDs. I don't know if they're the same prefix or not, but it
They
doesn't matter.
They would have to be, but I can't define that definitively. I went to Daniel
I
Bellin site. and
believe
couldn't
there
actually
is, because I think there's a field like is task to separate
Yeah.
tasks from
Yeah,
events.
you're right, right. Maybe that's why it works. That's perfect. That was exactly what I needed. Thank you, Michelle. Perfect. And thank you, Michael. I think earlier is one that suggested the components, and appreciate everybody. That's exactly what I was looking for.
All right, friends. Well, that about wraps things up. We have 1 minute to go. And so unless you want to hear my computer tell you that it's time to go,
I mean, I think we kind of have to.
I know.
Yep,
Y'all
we made it
work-
this far.
have work to do. And oh, you want to hear it? All right, I guess. Let's see. How can we do this? Make it really loud over here. But if anyone has any other feedback for us, post it up in the community group. If you have other questions, we love to hear about things as they come and as they happen, because we do see what's going on. And
Maybe
Okay.
this is kind of our core group too. Joy and I are making some changes to structure and format for the call to make it more valuable. If you've got input, reach out and let us know if there's something that you think should be added, subtracted, multiplied, or divided. So
yeah, we love. Oh, also the Rice Krispie treat conversation. You totally derailed me, and I need to go make some snacks, I guess.
they were the best.
Okay,
But I
I
don't
gotta
have
ask this
marshmallow.
question. What recipe do you use for them though? Because the box recipe has changed over the years and in my opinion is severely inferior.
2
to the one
o'clock.
My mother used.
Sorry,
2:00.
Michelle, it's 2
2 o'clock,
o'clock.
there's no time.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll DM you.
I don't make any, so I just eat them. I'm just in charge of that part.
I go
Just
by
so-
feel.
just search
I-
for a recipe.
New
Just
York
Google the recipe.
Times.
Ask
Brown
Jeff
I do
There's
brown
any-
butter. It's
Yeah,
really
brown
good.
butter, New York Times.
Yes.
There you
Sprinkles
go.
And
are
a little bit
optional,
of
but
vanilla.
Highly recommended.
All right,
Brown butter and a
friends,
Rice Krispie
that's-
treats is
that's
amazing.
the end. We'll talk to you all next time.
Bye, everybody.
Share your
Thank you.
recipes. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.